All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And this is a lesson dealing with Daniel, the 9th chapter, and mainly the 70 weeks, okay, in Daniel chapter 9, from verse 24 to verse 27. I'm going to start the first verse, but I'm not going to go through the whole chapter. I'm just going to hit the first maybe 2 or 3 verses and then jump down to the main point or the main part of the breakdown. Now, when you deal with, because Daniel received a lot of these visions, these prophetic visions of things that were going to happen in the future, and a bulk of it was have been fulfilled. Okay, and there's some that are yet to be fulfilled, like Daniel 12:1. All right, but a portion of it was dealing with Israel during the time of the Greek captivity and the things they were going to go through, and also the things that they were going to suffer at the hands of the Romans. Okay, during the time of Yahushua. All right, so in Daniel chapter 9, when you deal with the book of Daniel, it has a lot of history, but let's go into it. So a brother had asked, if I could go into it and break it down. So that's the inspiration for the video. So Daniel chapter 9, verse 1, it says, "In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans." Now, when you read like books like Daniel, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, like usually the first chapter and the first few verses give you context as to what time period it is. Who are the contemporaries, who is the ruling king, and based off of that, you do some history, some research on that, and get more context as to, okay, what's going on at this time. Now, the thing about the name Ahasuerus here is that in the scriptures, the name Ahasuerus is used for three different kings or 3 different individuals, but they're all referred to as Ahasuerus, and you have to use the context of the verse to understand, well, which king is this talking about? Okay, now when you go into the Ahasuerus over here, which I'll even pull it up in the Bible dictionary. Let's see, let's check out Eastern and see what they say. Okay. All right. So you have here Ahasuerus. It says there are 3 kings designated by this name in scripture. The first is the father of Darius the Mede, mentioned in Daniel 9:1, which we just read. This was probably the Cyaxares the first, and Cyaxares was the father of Darius the Mede. Okay, Astyages. Okay, and it says, known by this name in profane history, the king of Media and the conqueror of Nineveh. Yeah, because Cyaxares, along with because he was the king of the Medes at that time, along with Nabal-Palasser and Nebuchadnezzar, his son, took down the Assyrian Empire. Okay, so it says here the second mention, or the second individual that is referred to as Ahasuerus in the scriptures, is the king mentioned in Ezra 4 and 6, probably the Cambyses of profane history, the son and successor of Cyrus. And Cambyses the second, this individual, is like it says, the son of Cyrus. So you had Cyrus, and then you had Cambyses, and then his brother Bardia, and then Darius the Persian. Now, the thing about when you read about Darius is there's a Darius the Mede, and then there's another Darius. These are two different people, two different nations. That's why it has Darius the Mede at the end to help you identify, okay, this is a different Darius than any other Darius that it might mention, because Darius is not a name per se, it's more like a throne name, you know, or like a title. Like you have Pharaoh and you have Caesar. So we know the first Ahasuerus is dealing with Cyaxares, right, the father of Darius the Mede. The second is Cambyses, the son of Cyrus. And the third is, it says, the son of Darius Hystaspes, the king named in the book of Esther. Okay. He ruled over pretty much Xerxes. All right. That's who this is talking about. The third guy is Xerxes. Okay. The one we know in the time of Esther, the husband of Esther, that's him. And he was a Persian. He was a Persian. Cambyses was a Persian, but Darius the Mede and Cyaxares, these were Medes, two different nations. Okay, so that's all I really need to read on this part. So let's go back. And I wanted to just mention that briefly because if you don't know that distinction, when you read Daniel 9 and 1, you might get confused because instinctively you're going to see Ahasuerus and you're going to say, wait, Ahasuerus, oh, that's the guy from Esther. But that's not in Daniel 9 and 1, that's not the same individual. Though they're called by the same name, that's a different individual. All right, so in Daniel chapter 9, verse 1, Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, is talking about Darius the Mede, and historically he's known as Astyages or Astyages or Astyages, however you want to say it. And the son of Ahasuerus, this is talking about Cyaxares. Okay, these were both Medes or Medians. And in Daniel, the 5th chapter, this Darius the Mede is the one who gets the kingdom after Belshazzar, you know, or let me say he gets the province of Babylon after Belshazzar gets taken out that night. It says of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So now Daniel was in Babylon because Daniel was from the royal line of Judah, along with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which were their Babylonian names. They were taken captive to Babylon. So Daniel was in Babylon throughout the time of Nebuchadnezzar, all the way up until Belshazzar's death, and then the changing of rulerships or rulers, so to speak. So Daniel lives through when the Babylonians are ruling, up until the Persians come up in there. But it really Babylon was ruled by Darius, okay, which was a Mede. So now they're in Babylon, but the rulers is no longer Nebuchadnezzar's line or the Assyrians, which were ruling over the Babylonians. Now the ruler is Darius. Okay, so in this time period, this would place us right around, I say 539, like 539 BC. You know, because in the Babylonian Empire went down. They say the Neo-Babylonian went down around 539 BC. So that would be roughly around the time when what's this guy Belshazzar got taken out. Okay, so right around 539, 538ish, because it says that same night his kingdom was taken from him. So that would place Darius the Mede, who took the kingdom, right around that same time, 539, 538 BC. Okay. It says, which was made king over the realm, over the realm of the Chaldeans, which is Babylon. So Darius the Mede was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, not over the whole Persian kingdom, because the king of that was Cyrus. But Cyrus gave that portion of Babylon to Darius. When after they had taken it over, he gave him jurisdiction over that. Okay. And you can read more about that briefly in the book of Bel and the Dragon, the first verse. So verse 2, it says, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of years whereof the word of the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Okay. Now, the Lord actually did accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. Because when you look it up, it says here that see, when I believe 587 BC, but let's confirm that. When did the Babylonians destroy the temple? So they place you right around 587, 586. Okay, so let's go with 587 BC. The temple suffered at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylonia, who removed the temple treasures in 604 BC and in 597 BCE, and totally destroyed the building in 587, 586. So that desolation really came in 587 BC. And how long did it take before it was rebuilt? Well, it was destroyed in 586, and it was completely done being built in the temple, that is, in 517 BC. Now, when you deal with BC, that time, as you go more into the future, it counts down. Okay, so from 587 to or from 604 to 597, you're going into the future. You're going more into the future as it counts down. So let's get the book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 14. Now, it says here, and the elders of the Jews builded. What were they building? They were building the temple, because at the time of the rebuilding of the temple, you had Zechariah, the prophet, and Haggai, which the Lord put the spirit on them because they were contemporaries, meaning they were at the same time. They lived during the same time period. And the Lord put the spirit on them, both of them, to prophesy onto Jake, to get them to the spirit to build the temple, that is, because the temple got built first, and then sometime after that, the walls and the streets and all of that got built during the time of Nehemiah. So it says here, Ezra 6 and 14, and the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. And they builded and finished it. So they finished the temple. They finished building the temple according to the commandment of the Most High Power of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. Now keep this in mind, because when we go through from Daniel 9 and 24 on down, we're going to come back and make reference to this verse. So it was builded according to the commandment, that's the key word, the commandment of the Most High, first and foremost, and Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes. Okay? And these kings did not reign back to back to back. Okay? Cyrus reigned first. Okay? And this Darius is not Darius the Mede. This is Darius the Persian. He comes after. Cyrus reigns first, followed by his son Cambyses II, followed by Bardia or Smerdis, which is his brother, followed by Darius. So that's when this Darius comes into play. And then I believe the son of Darius was Xerxes, which is Ahasuerus, the guy from the movie 300. And then I believe it was his son, which is Artaxerxes, or Artaxerxes the first. Okay, so there was a bit of intervals between each of these kings. Nevertheless, during each of their times is when the decree was given. Okay, it says, and this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month Adar, which was in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. Okay, in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. So if you look up Darius, let's see, Darius, they call him the Great. It says here that he started reigning from 522 BC or BCE. So 6 years from there, you would count down 2 years, which would put you at 520, and then you would subtract another 4 years, which will put you at 516. Okay, so right around 516 BC, okay, 517, 516, they finished building the temple. Now we know the temple was destroyed in 587, right? 587, 586, and it was complete. It was done being builded around 517 or 516. Okay, and that gives you roughly pretty much 70 years. Okay, from 586 to 516 is 70 years. So it was destroyed, and then it was rebuilt within that span. That's why Daniel says here in Daniel 9:2, and in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of years whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. So Daniel read this, and then in this chapter, what he's doing is he's making supplication. He's praying unto the Lord to have mercy, okay, and to remember his covenants. And so as he's making this supplication, then basically he gets this response, okay, from an angel, okay, which the angel says here was Gabriel. So the angel Gabriel comes to Daniel, and basically, I'm gonna read it. Daniel chapter 9, verse 22, it says, and he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplication, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. All right. Now you have the 70 weeks and the Messiah. So the angel Gabriel is going to go into it and break it down to him. Now, one thing you got to understand is there are certain time periods in the scriptures that are exact, like when the Lord said concerning the 400 years that he said we would be captive in the land of Egypt, and that he would bring us out. When you read in the book of Exodus, it tells you that same day that according to the time he had told Abraham in the vision, he got us out. Okay. And then there are other time periods in the scriptures that are like you could say more or less or give or take, but they're within that time frame or time span. So they're not exact, because sometimes the Most High deals with exact time, and then sometimes he deals with within a time period. Okay. So when you read in Daniel 9 and 24 on down, this 70 weeks, the 69 weeks, the 62 weeks, these are not, it's not exact, because if you try to calculate it exactly, it won't add up, and then you'll get all messed up. Okay, but it's telling you within this time frame, which is roughly that 70 weeks is 490 years. And we're going to go into that. So Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. It says, this is what the angel Gabriel told Daniel. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. So that the angel is telling Daniel that within this span of 70 weeks. Now, first, let's go into that 70 weeks. Now, I told you 70 weeks is 490 years. Okay, because these are not 70 regular weeks. These are 70, I guess you could call them spiritual weeks if you want. Okay, so let's go first. Let's understand how long a week is in this context. And to do that, we're gonna go to the book of Genesis. For precept must be upon precept. Here a little and there a little. So Genesis chapter 29, verse 27. All right. So it says here, Genesis chapter 29, verse 27. It says, fulfill her week. Actually, let me see. Okay, verse 26. And Laban said, so this is after Jacob had been I guess supplanted, or deceived and misled, and he slept with Leah thinking that was Rachel, and then this is what the response that was given him. And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. fulfill her week, dealing with Rachel, meaning if you want her, you got to fulfill her week. So what does he mean by that? Keep in mind her week. It says, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. Okay. So it says, verse 28, and Jacob did so. What did he do? He served for 7 more years and fulfilled her week. And he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. So that week that he had to fulfill was what? A period of 7 years. So when you go back to Daniel 9, that's the same kind of week that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with 1 week, which is equivalent to 7 years. All right. So it says 70 weeks, meaning 7 years times 70. So if you have 7 years times 70, that's going to give you 490 years. Okay, 490 years. So the 70 weeks represents 490 years. And what the angel is telling Daniel is that within this 490-year period, you're going to have, it says, upon the holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. And this all happened when Yahushua came on the scene. Okay. So all the events that took place upon Israel that had to happen within this 490-year span happened, and ultimately Yahushua came to make that reconciliation and to bring in that everlasting righteousness through his sacrifice. All right. So moving on to verse 25, it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem onto the prince, or onto the Messiah, the prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. So now let's break this down. So it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem. So when was the going forth of the commandment? Right? The commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, remember we read earlier in Ezra chapter 6 and 14, and that's why I said remember this verse. It said here, Ezra 6 and 14, and the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo, and they builded and finished it according to the commandment of the Most High Power of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. So that commandment was first given by Cyrus, because Cyrus gave the decree for us to go back and start rebuilding the temple. Now, after Cyrus had died, the building was halted because the neighboring heathens made complaints of us to the next ruler, which was Cambyses. And so during his reign, Cambyses, he wasn't like his father Cyrus. So during his time, we couldn't build. It was halted up until the time Darius came into power. And then Darius said, okay, search the records and see if Cyrus actually gave commandment for them to rebuild. And when they searched the records, it was so. And so he gave the decree for us to go back and finish building. And that's where we read that in the 6th year of Darius, we were able to complete the building of the temple. So now, why does it mention Artaxerxes? Because after the temple was built, the walls and the city was still in desolation. So when you go to the time of Nehemiah, matter of fact, let's go to that. Let's go real quick to the book of Nehemiah, 2nd chapter. Like I was telling you, when you read the first few verses, it'll tell you who's the king, what's going on at this time. So Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 1, it says, and it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, was that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Nehemiah was the cupbearer of Artaxerxes. So there you go. There's your three kings: Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes. These are the three kings that gave the commandment, each in their time, for us to go back and finish rebuilding Jerusalem, temple and the walls included. So at the time of Nehemiah, well, let's actually finish reading this, okay? But notice it says in the 20th year, because it was in the first year of Cyrus, which is 538 BC, that he gave the commandment, the decree for us to go back and rebuild. And I believe after it was halted, the building was halted until the second year of Darius, which is around 520 BC. And then he said, okay, you guys go back and finish building. And we finished in the 6th year of his reign. And so after that, the wall was still destroyed. The city still looked desolate, but the temple was built. And then fast forward to the 20th year of Artaxerxes, which is around 445 BC. That's when he said he gave Nehemiah permission to go back and build the walls and the city. And that's what we're reading of right now. So Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 2, it says, wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? So what's the matter? It says this, this is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid. So he was saying, what's going on? Why are you looking so sad? You're not looking too good. And I know you're not sick. It says, and he said unto the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, for what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said unto the king, if it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Judah. And a letter unto, it says, and a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my power upon me. So this was the commandment. This is the decree that was given in the time of Artaxerxes. All right. So now, like going back to Daniel 9 and where are we? 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. So that's pretty much between the time period of Cyrus up until Artaxerxes. Okay, you had Cyrus, Darius, Artaxerxes. So between them three, that time, up until the Messiah, which is Yahushua's time, right? It says, until the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So you got 7 weeks, and is another way of saying in addition to. So you got 7 weeks plus 3 score. A score is 20. 3 score is 20 times 3, which is 60. Okay, so 3 score 60 and 2 weeks. 3 score and 2 weeks is 62 weeks. Okay, so 7 weeks plus 62 weeks. 7 plus 62 is equal to 69. So in total, it's saying from between the time that the commandment is given from Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes up until the time of Yahushua is going to be 69 weeks. Okay, and that's within that span of around 483 years. Okay, because 70 weeks minus 69 weeks is just 1 week. So you just take out 7 years. Okay, from 490 years, you take out 7 years. That's 1 week. Okay, so that's the first part. That's what he's saying. From the time the commandment is given to the time of Yahushua, it's going to be 400 and within the span of 483 years, but it's within that span. Okay, it says then it says the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And this was when we were rebuilding the walls. The troublous times was when these other nations and these heathens were coming up and coming against us as we were trying to build, sending letters and yada yada yada. And that was when we were trying to build the temple as well as the walls and all of that. So what's a precept for that? Well, let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 4. And to really get the history of this, you got to read the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah. All right, and it covers all of that. So now this is the book of Ezra, chapter 4, verse 1. It says, now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Lord power of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your God as ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. Now, what they were referring to was back in Israel. Let's get a nice map. Let's see. Bible map Israel. Take a look here. All right. There we go. Move this up here a bit. Cool. So what you can see is, Lucky, let me just position this correctly. All right. So you see the land of Judah down here, and you see Israel. And when the kingdom got split, you had the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Now, when the northern kingdom got taken into captivity under the Assyrians, what the Assyrians did was they took you out of your land and put you in another land. And then they did the same to those other people. They took them out of their land and put them in another land. So as Israel, as the northern kingdom was deported out, okay, of their land, other heathens were imported into that land. And you can read about that in the book of 2 Kings. So you had heathens that were now living in Samaria and this land over here, okay, as well as you had other heathens that were round about us. And they got proud. Ammonites, all of them, Edomites, they got proud because they had seen our destruction. As a matter of fact, the Edomites had a hand in our destruction. Okay, they also burnt the temple and they stood in the way and caught certain Israelites and so on and so forth. I believe that's in the book of Psalm 137. So these heathens here, now, when they were put in the land, the Most High kept sending lions to go and tear their ass up because they were doing heathenistic things in the Holy Land. So they requested a Levite, which was sent to come and teach them the things that they should do so that the Lord will stop sending lions to rip them to shreds. And that's what they did. So there are certain things that they did to simulate serving the Lord so that they wouldn't get judged. So that's why when they heard this, they said, "Oh, y'all building to the power. Oh yeah, we want to join that. All right, let us build. Good build. Let's build together." Right? And so that's what they came, and that's why they said, Ezra 4, Salakia. That's why they said, "For we seek your God as ye do," because that they had to follow those ways so that the lions wouldn't tear their asses up, and they passed that on down to their children. So these are heathens, but they were keeping to an extent our customs in our land. And this is also history that stems all the way into the New Testament during the time of Yahushua dealing with the woman, the Samaritan woman at the well. Because she said, in essence, she said the same thing as what these heathens said. that for our fathers, did worship in this mountain, and so on and so forth. And the most like Yahushua told her, look, you ain't a part of this, okay? Because you're not a natural Israelite. So it says, and we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Ashuradon, king of Ashur. And that means Ashur is the Assyrians. It says, which brought us up hither. See, they imported them and put them into our land. Verse 3, but Zerubbabel and Jeshua, the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel, said unto them, ye have nothing to do with us to build an house unto our power. But here it is, you got Jake talking about all inclusiveness, oh yeah, bring them in, bring the Medomites and bring all these people. Well, no, this is the energy you're supposed to have. No, you can't be a part of this. All right. It says here, but we ourselves together will build unto the Lord Yahweh, power of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, hath commanded us. Then the people of the land weakened. This is the troublous times. This is an example of the troublous times. All right. The people, they troubled us. Okay. It says, then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building. So go back to Daniel 9:25. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. So this was when they were troubling us and rebuilding. Although we were still successful at the end, they troubled us. All right. It says, verse 5, and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Okay. So that's that. All right. And that's what verse 25 is talking about. Verse 26, it says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. Now, 62 weeks is 400 and I believe 34 years. I wrote it down here. Yeah, right around 434 years. Like I said, it's not exact. So, well, all right. If I calculate because if you go, because what it's going to say, let me actually read it. Verse 26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, meaning Yahushua was going to die. But not for himself. Why? Because he was put on the cross for the sins of us, for our sins. You can read about that in Isaiah 53. It says, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So once again, within this time period, this span of 490 years, all right, after from 434 years into the future, you would have Yahushua come on the scene, but he will be put to death. Okay, because you might say, well, why does it say that after 69 weeks Yahushua is gonna come, right? From the commandment until Yahushua's time is gonna be 69 weeks, but then after 62 weeks, Yahushua is gonna be put to death. It's in a nutshell, what it's saying is within this time frame of 490 years, all these things are going to occur. Okay, from the commandment that's given from Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes up until Yahushua's time is going to be roughly 483 years. All right, it's a lot about the background noise, but from the time of, because it doesn't exactly say from when to Yahushua's time that is going to be 62 weeks. It just says, and after 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off. But we know that's within that 434 years, so on and so forth time period. Okay. So it says, and I believe also in the Apocrypha, in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 7th chapter, which Lord willing, I'll pull it up. Ezra sees the same vision. And it is told him the same thing, but in there it says 400 years. You see, so there you might say, wait, well, in the time in Daniel 9 it says 434, and I did the math, I did the calculations, but in the book of Ezra it says 400 years because it's within that time period. Okay. So let me finish this verse and then I'll pull up that precept. So continuing, so it says Daniel 9:26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, And the people of the prince that shall come, and this is talking about the Romans, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. What city is that? That's Jerusalem. And the sanctuary, which is the temple. And that and the end thereof shall be with a flood, because that flood represents their armies, all right, that they came with. And this is during the time, or is referring to the time when Nero sent Vespasian to go and quell the riots that were going on, the revolts that were going on over there by Jake. And so he came in there with his armies, him and his son Titus, with the help of what's this guy's name? Julius Tiberius Alexander. I believe that's how the order of his name went. And then they basically sieged Jerusalem and then destroyed it in 70 AD. Okay, so it says here, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And that was the war between Jake and the Romans, the Roman Jewish war, or the Roman Jewish wars as they call it. And desolations were determined because they destroyed it. They destroyed us. So now I mentioned that I was gonna get that precept. Let me pull it up from here. All right, this is in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 7. I think. Let's see, 43. Let's take a look. Now, when you also notice when you read in the book of 2nd Ezra that Ezra got visions that Daniel also got. Okay, let me type in 2nd Ezra 7. Some of the visions, like some of the visions Ezra saw, Daniel, those are the same visions Daniel saw, but then it was worded a little differently when it came to Ezra. He saw it differently, you know. And then you'll see that John, the Apostle John, also sees those same visions. Okay, because when you read in 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter, dealing with the Roman Empire, the angel tells Ezra, this is the vision that was given to your brother Daniel, but it was not expounded onto him. You see, so these prophets, they got the same visions, just in different ways. All right. Now this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 7, and verse. There we go. And here's a cold cut to those people that say that Yahushua is not spoken of in the Old Testament. You also explain this. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 7, verse 27. It says, and Ezra is in the Old Testament. So it says, and whosoever is delivered from the foresaid evils shall see my wonders. For my son Yahushua shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. Okay, after these years shall my son Hamashiach die. You see, after these years, what's that? That 400 years shall my son Hamashiach die. But when you go to Daniel 9, it says after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. So that's why I told you it's not exact. It's within 400 years, 490 years within that span. 400, 500 years within that span. That's what it's dealing with. But it's really talking about the same prophecy. All the angel was telling Daniel was that, look, within this time, Yahushua is going to come on the scene, and he's going to be that sacrifice, and he's going to be put to death for the sins of you. And then after that, there's going to be the destruction, because the Romans are going to come in and destroy the temple. That is prophecy. It had to happen that way. All right. So let's finish reading off in here. But hold on, though. It says in verse 29, after these years shall my son Hamashiach die. Wait a minute. Hold on, my son. What the Most High is only the Most High. And why is his son Yahushua mentioned in the Old Testament? I thought he didn't exist in the Old Testament. What's going on here? So it says here, and all men that have life. What it means is that when after Yahushua died, like in Matthew the 25th chapter, it tells you how we all slumbered and slept, the great falling away. There was going to be a falling away. So I believe in the book of Peter, it talks about for since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were. So you had men that were direct disciples after Yahushua, which died, and then those that were close after them also died, and eventually it's sort, it's sort of like the truth started to get hidden away again, which led into the time of the falling away. Okay, it says here, and the world shall be turned into the old silence 7 days, which means for a period of time, okay, for a complete amount of time, for a period of time, that was that falling away when we all slumbered and slept. Okay, those that had the truth, which the truth is ultimately life, but those that had the truth and those that didn't have the oil, okay, all of us lost our national. We all of us were brought to this low state. Okay, it says, like as in the former judgments, so that no man shall remain. It's not literal because we're still here. Okay, but it means that we were gonna all fall. None of us were gonna be exempt from that falling away. And that's what in Revelation 11 it talks about, their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. Okay, verse 31, and after 7 days the world that yet awaketh not. Remember, awaketh not. If you're not awake, what are you? You're asleep. So where else do we read about us being asleep? Matthew 25, the parable of the 10 virgins. The 5 were foolish, 5 were wise. And it says that when the bridegroom tarried, they slumbered and slept. When he tarried, that means when Yahushua died and went to the spirit world, okay, all of us, we went to sleep spiritually. And then when the cry was made, when the Lord, when the time came around the 1970s, that's when the Lord really put the spirit of truth, of awakening on us, starting with Elder Abba Bivens and on down, King Masha, High Priest Ariah, High Priest Yaquab, the rest of them, down to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, all the way down to us. We woke up. Okay. But verse 31 says, and after 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up. See? So now we are being awoken and being raised up, and we are standing upon our feet, an exceeding great army. All right. It says, and that shall die that is corrupt. In 2nd Ezra, I believe 5, it says, truth, faith shall flourish, and the truth shall like overcome. And let me just get it. Let's see, King. I think it says that the faith that have been so long without fruit, so long without fruit. Right. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 28. It says, and as for faith, it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared. So going back to 2nd Ezra 7 and 31, that's why it says, and after 7 days, the world that awaketh yet not, which represents Israel, all right, us being in that sleep state, shall be raised up. And that's what's happening now. And that shall die that is corrupt. Why? Because it's going to be overcome by this truth. Okay. Verse 32, and the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her, and so shall the dust those that dwell in silence, and the secret places shall deliver those souls that are committed unto them. And yeah, that's actually going to happen. And is also spoken about in the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter. Okay, about the sea and the hell and death and the sea cast out the those that were in them. Okay, so that's actually going to happen. Verse 33, and the Most High shall appear upon the seat of judgment, and misery shall pass away, and the long suffering shall have an end. Yeah, because then the judgment of the Lord is going to come. Then he's not going to hold back his judgments anymore, because the long suffering shall have an end. So now let's go back, and that's why in Daniel 9 it talked about within that span of 70 weeks it talked about to seal up the vision and prophecy, because for a period of time when we slumbered and slept, everything was. That's why in 2nd Ezra 7 it called it the old silence. Okay, where it would seem like nothing was happening, but in essence, we know that things were actually happening in the spirit. Okay. Yeah, this is a good one. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Shai Barakatam to you all. And Shalom, GMS Holland, the Israelite foreigner. Hey, the Wadi Yahweh Shem Shai, But that's why we're here. Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 43. This is Bayan Yasharallah. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, whereupon corruption is past. There you go. All right. Verse 44. Intemperance is at an end, infidelity is cut off, righteousness is grown, and truth is sprung up. Beautiful precept. All right. So let's go ahead and finish this up. So yeah, verse 26 is talking about Yahushua going on the cross, and then after that, you're gonna have the Romans that are gonna come and pretty much destroy us and the temple, and that's what caused us to scatter and to flee and so on. Verse 27, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So that he is dealing with the Romans. The covenant is the agreement that we had with them, which was that we're subject and tributary. We pay tribute to them, and so because of that, they allowed us to keep our customs, and they wouldn't, destroy us or whatnot. And that's why the Pharisees, when Yahushua was doing the things he was doing, what did they say? Let me get it. Take away, please. While that loads, let's close out a few of these tabs. All right. Where is this? There we go. John, the book of John, chapter 11, verse 48. And this is what they said. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. You see, because we had an agreement, a covenant with them, where they would allow us to be semi-autonomous, to govern ourselves under them, so long as we paid that tribute. But what happened? It says in for 1 week. Now this 1 week is a 7-year period. Remember, we read in Genesis 29 and 27 that a week representing 7 years. So within this 7-year period, which was from 66 to about 73 AD, all right, it says, and in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So in the midst of the week, from 66 to 73, the midst will be right around 69, 70. And what happened in 70 AD? Because we highlight 70 AD because that's when, I believe that's when they destroyed the temple. But the revolt and the wars and all that really started around 66 and carried on a little after 70 AD, because after Jerusalem, you had Masada, which was like another stronghold that Jake fled to. And that it gave them a much harder time to take it down because Masada was on a high ground. So we had the upper hand when, they had to fight uphill while we fought downhill, to take them out. So we withstood a little longer, but nevertheless, prophecy had to take its course. Okay. So in the midst of the week, that's that week starting from 66 to 73 AD. In the midst of that is right around 69, 70 AD. And what happened at that time? It says, in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So that's when they sent in their troops and their armies, and they came in and besieged Jerusalem and destroyed it. And so we weren't able to sacrifice. And it says, and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Who shall make what desolate? The Romans made us, or Jerusalem, desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So this is what was determined. This is what was set up to happen to us, and it was poured out upon the desolate, which was Jerusalem. Okay. And lastly, Yahushua also spoke about this. Where is it? I think it's Matthew. Let me just type in spoken of by Daniel. Let's get there. We go. Matthew 24 and 15. So now this was Yahushua warning them about 70 AD. And he said, because Matthew 24 is, there's certain verses that speak about 70 AD and certain verses that speak about our time period now. So Matthew 24 and 15, it says, when ye When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth it, let him understand. So when you see because who were gonna make it desolate, right? The Romans. So when you see them stand in the holy place, when you see them pulling up, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains, because the Lord was warning them about what was going to happen to them if they were there at that time of the siege. So when did Daniel speak of this? Well, we just read it. Daniel 9:27, the main part, it says, and for the what? The overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Yahweh Shai was quoting that when he said the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel. Verse 17, let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And a while back, I did a lesson on famine, the severity of famine, or something like that. And I went into the book of Josephus, into what was happening within Jerusalem with those that were there at the time of the siege. And there was an account of a mother who ended up killing her child, her baby, and eating her baby. Okay, so Yahweh Shai said, woe unto them that are with child. And an example was that mother that had to eat her own child because they were so hungry. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much the breakdown for Daniel 9:24 to 27. You know, it's really in a nutshell just talking about within that period of time, Yahweh Shai was going to come onto this. Well, there was going to be a decree made for us to go and rebuild the temple and the walls, and that we were going to have trouble doing it, and that Yahweh Shai was going to come. He was going to die for us, for our sins, and then the Romans were going to come and destroy the temple and Jerusalem. All right, and that's pretty much it on that. Now, these so-called Christians will see it and they'll tell you, whoa, 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 hold up. He just butchered it. He slaughtered it. It's talking about a 7-year war with the Antichrist. And yeah, they bugged out. They bugged out. All right. But with that, I hope you've been edified. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.